Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. Hope you're doing well. Here's what I want to cover. Today actually, I don't know if any of you saw this video. This video was on Facebook a while back. I think I've seen it 2 or 3 times. It probably was from a couple of years ago. And it was about this kid who was blind. And he was an infant when that happened. I don't know what happened. I think the mom said something about his eye, and so she took him to the doctor, and there was some kind of disease in his eye, and they had to limit it. So what happened was they basically had to. He went blind in one eye, and they had to actually take out another eye, and they showed him put a glass eye in his head and all that. But the point is, he went blind, and that didn't end his life. He not only survived, he thrived. Thrived in what way? Well, a lot of people when they're blind, the normal blind people, what are they going to do? They're going to have to try to find their way, and they do it with their sense of touch, right? They have that red cane, the white cane with the red tip. So they walk around with that cane. They use that cane as kind of like their sensory, it's the 3 or 4 feet. I don't know how long that thing is, but they use the touch, and they'll know, barrier. So what they're basically doing is they're looking for barriers and trying to ease their way through barriers. They're also listening as well. They're listening for things here, left or right. But what this kid did was actually pretty amazing. He went without the cane and instead just did it solely with his ears. So do we all understand how sonar works? Sonar is what submarines typically use. Sonar is what whales will use, dolphins, the water mammals, and that's how they communicate with sonar. So what they'll do is they'll put out a sound, and whatever that sound comes back from, they can gauge distance. Well, that's what this kid did. He would make this clicking sound out of his mouth constantly, and what he would do is he would turn his head and he would listen for how quickly the sound bounces back to him, and that would then tell him what's in front of him. And I guess if you do it enough times, then and you're semi-familiar with your surroundings, and you know what can possibly be out there, he can kind of gauge what's around him. So this kid would just run around his house, up and down the stairs, just like every other teenager would who could see. You would never know he couldn't see, right? So he'd run up and down the stairs, and he'd do stuff around the house, and without knowing, you wouldn't know he's blind, right? He'd be out in the driveway, and he's throwing his basketball, he's shooting hoops, and how was he able to do that? Well, what he's doing is making a sound. He can kind of tell where the basket is, and he's just shooting there. And he actually makes it in there. And then the most amazing one was seeing him ride a bike. Riding a bike, and he's just kind of turning his head, he's making a sound. He's gauging what's in front of him, I don't know how many feet out. That just goes to show that he lost his sight, but he did not lose his life. And he thought of an out-of-the-box way to cope with it. And used his sense of hearing like all blind people do. We all as individuals will use our sense of hearing, but we don't use them the way blind people use them. Just like the way deaf people use their eyes, and they're like reading lips. I mean, none of us really can read lips, right? You ever read that bad lip reading? No. I mean, you look at bad lip reading, those are comedy videos on YouTube that you can see, but and what they basically throw different words into whatever the lips are saying. So if you think of those terms, whereas a truly deaf person could probably read lips pretty accurately. But people like us who don't have that skill, we watch a bad lip reading thing, we start laughing because it actually looks like it could really be. And what we want to do in life is we want to make sure that we don't quit because we lose something. So as an example, in jiu-jitsu, a common thing, especially in our school, is we have people who sign up. Our average age student is probably between the age of 35 and let's call it 48-ish, right? So we tend to have people that have lived life a little bit. And if you live to your 40s or 50s, there's going to be some sort of injuries that you've had over your lifetime if you did any kind of level of athletics. Right. For me, what do I have? 2 knee surgeries. I've mentioned, I've had my elbows cracked, I don't know how many times. My other knee probably got popped a good 2-3 times that I haven't had knee surgery on, but I will at some point. But that's nothing. I've got a student who has 2 artificial knees, and he's in his mid-30s, right? I've got a student who's had 8 knee surgeries, and he's probably in his early 40s, right? But yet, they both train, and they both train regularly. In fact, one of them is one of our instructors. He teaches our 6 a.m. class. Just because they have those, they didn't let that stop themselves. You know, they just decided, I'm going to train. And they come to me, and they mention it to me. I've had, you know, I've got 2 artificial knees, or I've had knee surgeries, you know, and I say, that's okay, just come on in. You know, I don't ever say, you know, nah, you can't do it. Well, I mean, of course, you know, they have to kind of take account for the fact that they have really bad knees. Or in one of them's case, not his own knees. But that doesn't mean you have to stop living, right? So what I'll do is I'll just simply figure workarounds. You know, if there's something that you absolutely cannot do, then you don't need to do it, right? If you can't sit with your butt on your heels while you're on the floor, you know, just put you on your knees, but, you know, sit down so your butt's down on your heels. If you physically cannot get to that level where you're just all the way down, then we have to figure a workaround, right? And that's what I call it, a workaround. And you may have a situation you need to work around, right? Many of you already know from my past videos that my shoulders are jacked up. You know, I can't get my hands flat on the against the, see, look at that. And that's my good shoulder, by the way, right? But I still train. Why? Because I love training, right? I'm not gonna let it stop me. At some point I may have to get it fixed, like the way I got my knee fixed. But right now, it's not bad enough to where I need to get it fixed. It hurts, it bugs me from here and now and again, but not enough for me to be laid up for 6 months, you know, having to get the shoulder repaired and do the rehab after that. It's not that bad. At some point, I'm gonna have to do it. And then when it does happen, guess what? I'll go through the rehab and I'll be looking forward to the next time I can get back on the mat again. All I'm trying to say to you is this. We all have our issues in life. You know, whether you're injured, whether you have no legs, right? Whether you're blind, whether you're deaf, you know, I don't care. That's not an excuse for you. Don't use those things as excuses, because excuses really mean nothing, right? They don't get you anywhere. All they do is they stop you from doing things. Whether you want to come and train or whether you want to do something else, it doesn't really matter. Do what you want to do. And if there's a limitation, just work around it. Think of a limitation as a hurdle, and you just want to jump over that hurdle and just continue on after that. Some of us have higher hurdles, some of us have no hurdles. It doesn't matter. Just continue on with your journey, right? Just go around it if you have to, go over it or go through it. And once you do, then you'll be past that hurdle, and then you just do whatever else you want after that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rusty just updated me that this teenager died at the age of 16. The cancer that took his eye ended up going into his brain and coming back and killing him. He lived a full life at 16. How many of us have lived full lives at 50 like I am, right? A lot of us have just kind of gone around, right? We've just been victims to life. We don't make our lives happen. We just kind of go with the flow. You know, you're like that fish that just kind of floats around in your aquarium and doesn't really do anything, right? Or those fish that just stay in a little spot. They're the ones that get eaten by the other fish. Be that predator fish. Be the one that makes stuff happen, right? Be the shark. Hey, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. How you doing?
A little bit tilt over there.
Be the person that makes things happen and live your life to the fullest. I know it's cliche, but it really is true, right? Make things happen for yourself. And here's what I kind of think about. I don't know how many years ago it was. There's a singer from Hawaii. His name is Israel Kamakawiwoʻole. And he was the biggest dude I've ever seen, and bigger than the biggest sumo wrestlers. The guy probably weighed 800 pounds. And I think his brothers, he had older brothers that died early as well, and they were also that big. They were so big, their coffins had to be the size of a piano box. He was given basically a state funeral in the state of Hawaii. They put his body at the state capitol, and thousands of people came out to see him, to pay their respects. Thousands, right? Blocked traffic and everything. And he didn't live a long life, but he lived a full life. Now, many of you who have never heard of him, I'm almost certain you've heard his music. I think that his most famous song used to get played every year when EToys.com used to do their commercial. That's kind of a blast back. That's probably a good 10, 15 years ago.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah. See, do you remember EToys.com? So go ahead and find the old YouTube commercials for EToys.com, or just pull up his name. Now, I can spell it for you, but you're not gonna remember it. But anyway, Israel, like the country, and then K-A-M, just Kamakawiwoʻole, just K-A-M, and then it'll autofill and pull up Over the Rainbow. And
yeah, he did Over the Rainbow and
He did a bunch of songs, but that was the one that everybody knows. And that was a song that they played, the intro to that song is what they played in the EToys commercial. And you know, I'm living in California when that happened. I thought, that's pretty cool. Here I am in Hawaii, and they're playing a local Hawaiian singer's intro to a song for their Christmas, for the commercial, you know, to get people to buy gifts for Christmas online. But he lived a full life. So now that we know that this kid lived a full life, I want you to live a full life. Simple as that. And this channel has been enabling me to touch so many of you, more people than I ever thought possible, right? And then because of that, you know, we have a lot of people here at the studio, and I get to teach them jiu-jitsu. It's like the funnest job ever, right? I know, grammar police, no such word, funnest, yeah, whatever. I don't care. But anyway, don't let anything stop you. Right? We all have excuses. Just throw those excuses out. You don't need them. Because I can tell you, once you join jiu-jitsu, if you have any excuses, you're going to be one of those that leaves before you ever get to your blue belt. You'll be that one of 30 that needs to walk into a studio that's going to earn a blue belt, right? 1 of 30 is a typical stat. 30 people walk into the door of a studio, they're interested, they try it out, and 29 leave, and of that 30, only 1 ends up getting a blue belt. The rest of you find excuses and you quit. So don't be that guy. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Happy training. Bye now.